Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Storm Spotter for the National Weather Service here in Phoenix, Arizona. Timothy Breault coming to you with another video update for what to expect for the next couple of weeks here, or at least to get a broad perspective of what could or may not happen. But one thing is for sure is in the upper Midwest and in the Northeast, if you are in any of those areas or live there or visiting or traveling, um, really pack the warm clothes. I mean, you're going to need to bring layers. It's going to be quite cold across the area. When I say cold, we're talking dangerous cold temperatures. We're talking wind chill values up here in the upper Midwest, particularly Minnesota, North and South Dakota, and even parts of the western Great Lakes region. And then eventually spreading into much of New England. We're talking wind chill values anywhere between -5 degrees below zero and -50 degrees below zero. Now, the -50, if we're going to get it, is going to be up around International Falls and the upper Great Lakes regions, right around surrounding Canada. We're talking extreme cold temperatures. Those are wind chills. Those aren't the actual air temperatures. But the air temperatures are not going to be any better across the area, guys. It's going to be quite cold. So anyways, yeah, let's get into it. It's December 26th, 2017, the day after Christmas. Hope everyone had a good Christmas, or however you celebrated, Hanukkah, or whatever, whatever you want to celebrate, or however you celebrate. Happy New Year's, too, coming up for everyone. That's going to be next on the plate. So, we all know now, like a lot of us know anyway. If some of you don't, I have another video on it explaining what La Niña is and what comes with La Niña. This is the second winter now we're in a La Niña, and the La Niña looks to continue now and through at least late March to early April time period before it starts to weaken. We are already seeing some very gradual signs of some weakening in atmospheric response to La Niña, but we actually have some other factors that are playing big with the way the temperatures have been going this year, this winter here, especially in December. Early through much of the month here, it's been really cold in the upper Midwest, and some pretty cold shots. December is definitely going to be below average. We're going to average about 3 to 5 degrees below average here up in the New England area, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and most likely it's 5 to 7 degrees below average on average. Below average here in the upper Midwest, with some areas as much as 10 to 15 degrees below average, finishing off the month. So what about heading into January, guys? Well, is it going to change? Are we going to moderate here in the Midwest? Is it going to warm up? Are we going to start getting warmer here in the East? Well, I can tell you one thing's for certain. Don't hang your hat on that, okay? I don't think we're going to see much warm air anytime soon. To at least maybe the end of the second week of January was where we'll start to moderate some. So basically, maybe I'm saying between the 6th and the 10th, we'll start seeing some moderation here in temperatures, especially in the Midwest, and then the Southeast. So we should see a ridge of high pressure start building between now and, most likely taking shape between the 3rd and the 5th of January around here, South Florida, and working up this way. So we'll start seeing a transitional zone developing anywhere from South Texas all the way up into parts of the New England area, southern New England, or, up around New York City and New Jersey. It looks like these areas could see some moderation in temperatures, at least somewhat, but with cold air still hugging much of Maine and upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and much of northern Massachusetts. They're going to stay, we might get closer to average eventually as we start heading around the 8th or the 10th period in Massachusetts and these areas. We might start seeing some warmer temperatures, or at least near average, but still averaging a 1 to 3 degrees below average. So we're not looking for a lot of warmth, but warm conditions relatively are going to be developing here for across much of the Southeast. And the Southwest initially is going to be quite warm, not hot, but warm, especially for winter standards. Our average in Phoenix this time of year is about 62 degrees, and we're going to be up into the low to middle 70s. I will not be surprised if we squeak out an 80 degrees around Yuma, Arizona, which is way here, down here in the southwestern corner of the state. And around the Colorado River Valley, we might see some just barely touching 80 for a brief period of time. We're going to be watching a cutoff low that's going to meander down in this general vicinity here southwest of California. That was going to pump some high cloudiness into the desert southwest in parts of New Mexico and Utah as well. But again, we're not looking for rainfall out of these clouds. We're looking for just some overcast conditions at time. But again, light winds and relatively mild temperatures, anywhere between the order of 5 to 15 degrees above average. Again, your classic La Nina-like fashion. And, other reasons are there as to why we're going to be seeing these temperatures. And, we still have some blocking going on. We all have the PNA, the PADO, the AAO, the AO. Okay, so let's take a look at them. It's going to give us an idea. We'll go into forecast models, and we want to look at, the 6 to 10 day outlook. This is just to give you an idea. This is subject to change. It's already changed many times. It's been going back and forth between wet and dry, mild and cold, for much of the Southwest and the West Coast. For the last 3 or 4 weeks, off and on, for at least 5 to 7 day periods, we've been seeing temperatures and precipitation change on the West Coast because they want to continue to bring this type of rainy pattern to much of California, but it's not happening because the ridge keeps rebuilding over the same area, and that's because we have, believe it or not, a temperature differential, and we'll get more to that on another discussion. But this gives you an idea. So this is the temperatures, the most updated maps I have right now. This is all property of the National Weather Service. I don't own any of this. It's not mine. I just use it to make forecasts, and they've allowed me to do it so far. So in the meantime, we're just using this. All property goes to them. I don't own a single thing. These are not my maps at all. Okay, so again, I just work as a storm spotter for the National Weather Service here in Phoenix. I'm not an actual meteorologist or anything. So I just do this because I love doing it, and I've gotten quite good at it, at times, and been pretty precise on some things. Okay, so let's take a look at what we got going on. You can see here very cold conditions here, the bullseye here in the northeast. This is for the next 6 to 10 days. This takes us out to January 5th. Again, like I said, we're going to start seeing some moderation, and probably around the 10th, we'll start seeing some type of moderation, but deep freeze between the 26th today and lasting through at least another week and a half, guys. It's going to be brutally cold. Not a whole lot of precipitation in here. So that you'll see on the precipitation map, you can see, there's really not a whole lot of precip. I mean, we're actually looking, because this is an Arctic high, and that's going to pump down the very cold air from the Hudson Bay. So the Arctic high is just south of the Hudson Bay area, up from, this is being the Hudson Bay area here, southward. Okay, so basically what we're looking at is below average temperatures across much of the Great Lakes, like you saw into the northeast. But precipitation in New England, as far as Massachusetts, New York, these areas, look for more normal precipitation, probably not above average by any means. A slight wet signal developing here in Florida and southeast Texas, a little bit of, when it's a 40% chance of being above average, so that's not a very good chance, but the chances there that we might see some slightly wetter than average conditions developing. So also another wet signal up here in the Pacific Northwest, that would be coincident with La Nina, bringing wetter than average conditions to the Pacific Northwest. But this, usually it's wetter here in the Ohio Valley, but because the NAO is neutral, the PDO is neutral, the PNA, now the PNA, which I'll show you in a minute here, the PNA is actually very positive right now, and because it's positive, we have a huge ridge out here in the west, and that's what's causing the very warm conditions you saw on the previous map up here. This is, where the warmth is, that's where the ridge is. It's basically, and this goes all the way up into Alaska, almost near the Arctic Circle, the high pressure is. It's just absolutely incredible, the amplified pattern we have going on across the United States right now. And even that is not really directly La Nina influenced. So we can't just blame La Nina on this. This is actually anti-La Nina in a way, because this was more... like I said, you'll see the PNA is absolutely insane right now in terms of it, so again, the 6 to 10 day outlook takes us with the precipitation here. Relatively normal conditions for much of the west, according to this model. I do want to be inclined to believe that it will not be so much normal as it will be slightly drier than average. So I believe they should extend some of this drier or below average precipitation down to the southwest for at least the time being for now. But it's encouraging to see normal. That's not a bad thing. I mean, normal's great if we can even get that. So they're calling for normal precipitation right now. Again, a slight wet signal in the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, and again, much of the southeast looking to be, slightly on the wetter side of things if this model were to verify. Again, that's still 6 to 10 days out. Looking at the 8 to 14 day, I will take you there now. We're going to go to the 8 to 14 day outlook and look at temperatures. And again, this is going to take us out to January 9th. Now, remember I said we'll start seeing some type of moderation going on, or the cold will start to ease just a tiny bit here in the New England area. Now, it's still showing 50% chance of below average temperatures, but not as cold as it was. They were calling for almost 100% chance of below average temperatures up until the 5th or the 6th. Now, this is January 3rd through the 9th, and it looks like we're going to start to get a little bit more moderation in temperatures, but still a relatively warm signal out here in the west. And that's not to say it's going to be well above average, but there's a 40 to 50% chance of seeing temperatures 1 to 3 degrees above normal. And precipitation, I'm very hesitant on precip at this time because it could change. It keeps changing. And you got to be careful when it comes to forecasting precip. Okay, so this is the 8 to 14 day outlook for precipitation. Unfortunately, we're not seeing as much below average conditions in terms of precip, but hey, this is good news for the southeast. Okay, this is really good news for the plains and the southeast, which have been in drought for much of the autumn. And it looks like they might start developing a wet signal with normal conditions where I reside over Arizona and much of the Pacific Northwest seeing normal conditions. The only area that they currently think that will see a 40% chance of below average precipitation would be in southern and central California. I'm not buying my hat on that right now, only because of what some of the models are starting to show would be a slightly wetter than average pattern developing, or at least normal, for the Pacific Northwest as well as Southern California. I do believe that this below average signal will disappear with time, and as we head into the second week of January, we should start to see that abate a bit and probably get a little bit more rainfall in here right now. So I'm not exactly sure how much rain we're going to see or when the stormy pattern will start up. Some say it's going to be as early as the 2nd of January, and some say it's going to be late as the 12th. So we don't necessarily know that far out. But now we'll look at the NAF TAFs and see what they've got for us here, what they think is going to happen. To give you a, it's pretty trustworthy, but again, it's still 8 to 14 day outlook, so you got to be careful when you're forecasting with these things. It's not an easy task whatsoever. This is very, you got to be hesitant on it. So this is the NAEFS 8 to 14 day outlooks. Okay, so it's just going to give us an idea of what is going to happen in terms of precipitation, in terms of temperatures. And again, this takes us out to the 12th, okay, of January. And they're still calling, according to them, they're calling for well below average temperatures here in the plains and in much of the Northeast, with warm conditions in the desert Southwest and cooler than average conditions up here in the Pacific Northwest. And as we head down, as far as terms of precipitation, like I said, we're starting to see a wet signal developing here. Not so much for California, but definitely a subtropical moisture tap down here south of Hawaii, and then pulling it into the desert Southwest. Now, basically, that doesn't really bring a whole lot of cold air. That's the subtropical jet. And when we have a subtropical jet in action, we tend to get a lot of warm rain events. Basically, that's high snow levels with cool temperatures, but not cold. Usually in the Flagstaff area, they're at 7,000 feet, or just barely 7,000 feet. Downtown, so that would make a rain-snow mix with a temperature of around 36, 37 degrees. Not really optimal for significant snowfall unless we get an atmospheric river to develop out of this event. And that's not really showing signs of an atmospheric river, other than the fact that there is a good moisture pool sitting south of Hawaii that we might be able to tap into on the subtropical jet, which might bring some type of precipitation event or events to the desert southwest, including Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, and then going up into the plains, with also, again, another pool of wet conditions developing in the Gulf of Mexico and temporarily working its way into the Carolinas and just barely eclipsing the New England area, with a drier signal over the Ohio Valley at this time, and a slight dry signal here in Northern California into the Pacific Northwest. So again, we're not exactly sure